I never thought my honeymoon would end with me making my husband into a drag queen, but that's exactly what happened. And what started as a playful experiment on a tropical beach would become 7 months of the most fabulous, transformative journey of our marriage. Everyone always talks about wedding day nerves, but I felt nothing but certainty. Andrew was everything I'd ever wanted. Kind, adventurous, supportive, and gorgeous, my perfect 10. As we exchanged vows, I thought I knew everything there was to know about this man. His favorite meal, colors, the way he laughed at his own jokes, how he always left his socks on the bedroom floor. I thought I had him completely figured out. I was so incredibly wrong, and I've never been happier to be mistaken about anything in my entire life. Picture this. You're on your honeymoon, supposed to be having the most romantic week of your life, and instead, you're watching your brand new husband slip into a midnight blue sequin gown. And in that moment, I realized my honeymoon wasn't just about romance. It was about discovering a whole new side of the man I thought I knew. The dress hugs every curve before flaring into a dramatic mermaid silhouette, dark feathers cascading from the hemline like liquid shadow. Black high-heeled sandals add 6 inches of pure confidence, and as he turns to face the mirror, I barely recognize the man I married 3 days ago. My name is Isabella, and this is the story of how I discovered that sometimes the person you think you know completely can surprise you in the most beautiful ways imaginable. If you love heartfelt stories about discovery, transformation, and love, hit subscribe and join the Gender Diary family. Every subscriber helps us share even more powerful stories like this one. Let me take you back to where this all began. 3 days before that sequined revelation, I was walking down the aisle toward my perfect 10. Andrew stood there in his classic black tuxedo, and I swear time stopped. This was the wedding I'd dreamed about since I was 7 years old, complete with the flowing white dress, the flower petals, and that moment when you look into someone's eyes and know you've found the one. Here's something Andrew didn't know about me, something I'd kept tucked away like a guilty pleasure. I was absolutely obsessed with drag queens, not just casually interested, completely, utterly fascinated. I'd spent countless hours watching RuPaul's Drag Race, following queens on Instagram, studying their makeup tutorials like they were masterclasses in art. There's something magical about drag that most people don't understand. It's not just men in dresses, it's pure artistry. It's taking everything society tells you to be and throwing it out the window in favor of glitter, creativity, and unapologetic self-expression. These performers transform into living works of art, each look telling a story, each performance breaking boundaries. I'd been to a few drag shows over the years, always alone or with girlfriends, never mentioning it to boyfriends, because, let's be honest, most guys don't get it. They see it as weird or threatening, instead of the incredible celebration of creativity it actually is. So it remained my private passion, something I enjoyed in secret while dating men who thought football and beer were the only acceptable forms of entertainment. But watching those queens perform, I always wondered what it would feel like to create that transformation myself, to be part of that artistry, instead of just admiring it from the audience. Our honeymoon in the Maldives was like something out of a magazine. Crystal clear water, overwater bungalows, and the kind of tropical paradise that makes you question why anyone lives anywhere else. We spent our days snorkeling, lounging on pristine beaches, and having those long conversations that new couples have when they're trying to map out their entire future together. The evenings were magical. Candlelit dinners on the beach, dancing under the stars, and that honeymoon intimacy where everything feels heightened and new. We were in that bubble where the rest of the world doesn't exist, where you can say anything and try anything because you're drunk on love and possibility. It was during one of these perfect evenings, as we sat on our private deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible shades of pink and gold, that I felt safe enough to share something real about myself. Maybe it was the wine, maybe it was the romance of it all, or maybe it was just that Andrew had this way of making me feel completely accepted no matter what I said. I was about to test that acceptance in a way I never expected. "I have to tell you something," I said, my heart racing like I was about to confess to a crime. "I'm kind of obsessed with drag queens." I braced myself for the usual reaction, confusion, maybe some uncomfortable jokes, or that polite smile men give when their girlfriends reveal an interest they find weird. Instead, Andrew's eyes lit up with genuine curiosity. "Really? That's so cool. I've never been to a drag show, but I've always wondered what it would be like. Those makeup transformations are incredible." I stared at him, waiting for the but isn't it kind of strange? Or, "But you don't want to actually try it, right?" It never came. Instead, he leaned forward with that adventurous smile I'd fallen in love with. "You know what? Let's try it out, why not? It's our honeymoon. Let's make it unforgettable." My mouth literally fell open. In 3 years of dating, countless conversations about our dreams and interests, and he drops this casual bombshell like he's suggesting we try a new restaurant. I was overjoyed, terrified, and completely unprepared for a husband who was more open-minded than I'd dared to hope. "Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious." I mean, how hard can it be? And if anyone can turn me into a fabulous drag queen, it's definitely my wife. The next morning, we set out on what would become the most entertaining shopping trip of our lives. The resort had a small town nearby with surprisingly diverse shops, including a costume store that felt like fate had placed it there just for us. Andrew approached this mission with the same enthusiasm he brought to everything else, which is to say he took it seriously while having an absolute blast. We spent 2 hours trying on wigs, with him posing dramatically in the mirror and making me laugh until my sides hurt. There was the platinum blonde bombshell look, the fierce red curls, and finally the sleek black bob that made my heart skip a beat because it looked so right on him. Then came the dresses. Andrew was surprisingly particular about this part, rejecting anything too simple or conservative. "If I'm doing this, I'm going all out," he declared, holding up a bright pink number with enough sequins to blind a small aircraft. We settled on 3 options: the midnight blue gown that would later become iconic in my memory, a shorter red cocktail dress with dramatic shoulders, and a classic little black dress that hugged curves in all the right places. Shoes were an adventure in physics. Watching a man who'd never worn heels higher than his work boots try to navigate stilettos was hilarious and endearing. He practiced walking around the store, concentrating with the intensity of someone learning a new language. "Okay, I get why you complain about these things," he said after nearly taking out a display rack. The makeup shopping was where I got to show off. Years of secretly studying drag tutorials finally had a practical application. We loaded up on everything: foundation, contour, eyeshadow palettes with colors that don't exist in nature, false eyelashes that looked like tiny works of art, and enough lipstick to stock a small cosmetics counter. By the time we left, we had enough supplies to transform him into a dozen different personalities. Andrew was practically bouncing with excitement, and I felt like I was about to embark on the creative project of a lifetime. But as fun as shopping was, I had no idea the real magic hadn't even begun yet. Back in our suite, the real magic began. I'd set up our bathroom like a professional makeup station, with every product laid out in the order I'd use them. Andrew sat patiently in the chair we'd pulled up to the mirror, and I could see the anticipation in his eyes. "Okay, close your eyes and trust me," I said, picking up the primer. "This is going to take a while, but I promise it'll be worth it." Starting with skincare and primer felt almost meditative. I'd watched so many tutorials that my hands knew exactly what to do, but having an actual canvas, especially one that belonged to my husband, made everything feel surreal and exciting. The foundation went on smoothly, and I watched Andrew's natural features begin to soften and change. Contouring was where the real transformation started. I carved out cheekbones that could cut glass, slimmed his nose, and created a jawline that was feminine but still strong. Each stroke of the brush revealed someone new emerging from beneath his familiar features. "Can I look yet?" he asked, hands itching toward the mirror. "Absolutely not. We're nowhere near done." The eyeshadow was my favorite part, a smoky blend of deep blues and silvers that made his eyes look absolutely stunning. I'd never realized how beautiful Andrew's eye shape was, until I framed them with dramatic color and precision lines. The eyeliner took 3 attempts because my hands were shaking with excitement, but when I finally got those perfect wings, I actually gasped. False eyelashes were trickier than the tutorials made them look, but once they were on, Andrew's eyes looked like something from a magazine cover. I filled in his eyebrows to a perfect arch, added highlighting that made his cheekbones glow like he was lit from within, and finally applied the lipstick, a deep red that was bold enough to be seen from space. "Okay, time for hair," I announced, reaching for the sleek black wig. Adjusting the wig was like putting the final piece of a puzzle into place. Suddenly, the face in the mirror wasn't just Andrew in makeup. It was someone entirely new. Someone glamorous and mysterious and absolutely stunning. Now, the dress. The midnight blue gown slipped on like it was custom made. The way it hugged and flared in all the right places was almost magical. I zipped it up slowly, watching in the mirror as the transformation completed itself. Finally, the shoes. Andrew slipped his feet into those black, high-heeled sandals and stood up slowly, using the wall for balance. When he finally turned to face the full-length mirror, the silence stretched for almost 30 seconds. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Is that really me?" The person in the mirror was absolutely breathtaking. The dress, the makeup, the wig, everything combined to create someone who looked like they belonged on a red carpet or a magazine cover. But more than that, there was something in Andrew's posture, in the way he held himself, that suggested this wasn't just costume. It was a revelation. The face in the mirror stunned us both, but this was only the beginning of the surprises. What happened next was pure magic. Andrew, or whoever this glamorous creature was, started moving to imaginary music. There was no hesitation, no self-consciousness, just pure performance instinct taking over. He posed, strutted, and vogued like he'd been doing it his entire life. "Work it, darling," I shouted, grabbing my phone to capture every second. He spun, nearly lost his balance, laughed, and kept going. The confidence was infectious and absolutely mesmerizing. This wasn't just my husband playing dress-up. This was someone discovering a part of themselves they never knew existed. We spent the next hour taking photos, making videos, and laughing until we couldn't breathe. Andrew experimented with different poses, facial expressions, and attitudes. Each look felt like meeting a new person, and every single one was captivating. "I can't believe how different I feel," he said during a break, sitting carefully in the dress. "It's like I'm channeling someone else entirely, but also like I'm more myself than I've ever been. Does that make any sense?" It made perfect sense. I'd seen this same transformation in drag queens. I'd watched that moment when the exterior change unlocks something internal, something that was always there, but never had permission to emerge. "You're incredible," I told him, and I meant it completely. "You're absolutely stunningly incredible." I thought it would end as a fun honeymoon memory, but that night was just the start of something much bigger. As the evening went on, something deeper started happening. Andrew began talking about how the clothes felt, how the makeup changed his perception of himself, how the heels made him stand differently and feel more elegant. These weren't just observations. They were discoveries. "The texture of this dress against my skin is amazing," he said, running his hands along the sequin fabric. "And these heels, I know they're impractical, but they make me feel so powerful, graceful. I don't even have words for it." He was examining himself in the mirror with fascination, not vanity. Studying the way the wig framed his face, how the makeup had changed his bone structure, how the entire look created someone who was familiar, but completely transformed. "Isabella, this is incredible. I feel like I'm seeing myself for the first time, but also like I'm seeing someone I've always known was there. It's confusing and exciting, and I don't want it to end." My heart somersaulted. This wasn't just fun anymore. This was my husband discovering a part of himself that he'd never had access to before. I was watching someone I loved unlock a new dimension of their identity, and I got to be part of that journey. "The way you look at me when I'm like this," he continued, "it's different, like you're seeing something in me that's usually hidden." He was right. Looking at him in that moment, I saw creativity, vulnerability, courage, and beauty, all wrapped up in midnight blue sequins. I saw someone willing to step completely outside their comfort zone, just because their wife was passionate about something. I saw someone discovering joy in unexpected places. "I am seeing something new," I admitted, "but I think it was always there. We just found a way to let it out." We talked until almost sunrise, Andrew still in the dress and makeup, both of us processing what had just happened. It wasn't just a fun honeymoon activity anymore. It felt significant, transformative, and deeply personal. "I don't want this to be a one-time thing," Andrew said finally. "I mean, I know it's unusual, and I don't know what it means exactly, but I want to explore this more. Is that okay with you? Okay?" I was over the moon. I thought I was sharing a hobby with my husband, but instead we'd stumbled onto something that felt like a new shared language, a way to explore creativity and identity together. "More than okay," I said. "I would love that. We can take it slow, figure out what it means for us, and just see where it goes." "Really? That's awesome," he said. We made a pact that night. This wouldn't be something we hid or felt ashamed about. It would be ours to explore, together, at whatever pace felt right. No pressure, no expectations, just curiosity and openness. As the sun started rising over the ocean, Andrew finally took off the heels and let me help him out of the dress. I could see that something fundamental had shifted. We'd crossed a threshold together, and there was no going back. Not that either of us wanted to. The rest of our honeymoon took on a completely different energy. During the day, we were the same couple we'd always been, swimming, exploring, having romantic dinners. But in the evenings, we'd return to our suite and continue the exploration. Some nights, Andrew would get fully dressed up. Other nights, we'd just experiment with makeup or practice walking in heels. Each transformation revealed something new. One night, he was sophisticated and elegant, the next playful and flirty. We discovered that his drag persona, who we started calling Aria, had her own preferences, her own style, her own attitude. It was like getting to know a new friend, except that friend was an extension of the man I'd just married. We started documenting everything: photos, videos, little moments of discovery. Not for anyone else, just for us, to remember this incredible journey we were taking together. Looking through those images later, I could see the progression not just in Andrew's skill with makeup and fashion, but in his comfort with this new aspect of himself. By the end of our honeymoon, transformation had become second nature. Andrew could do a full face of makeup in under an hour, walk confidently in 4-inch heels, and channel Aria's personality like flipping a switch. More importantly, we'd developed rituals around it. The careful preparation, the reveal moment, the photography session, the gentle removal at the end of the night. Coming home meant figuring out how this honeymoon discovery would fit into our real life. We'd been in a tropical paradise where anything felt possible, but now we had jobs, responsibilities, and the question of whether this magical experience could survive in the mundane world. "I don't want to lose this," Andrew said as we unpacked our suitcase full of wigs and sequins. "This has become part of who I am now." We converted our spare bedroom into what we jokingly called Arya's room, a space dedicated to makeup, costumes, and transformation. It became sacred space, somewhere Andrew could explore this side of himself without feeling rushed or self-conscious. The first time he fully transformed at home, it felt different, but just as special. If anything, having our own space made it more intimate, more personal. This wasn't vacation experimentation anymore. This was part of our marriage, part of our life together. We established boundaries and guidelines that worked for us. Weekend transformations became a regular thing, sometimes for a full evening, sometimes just for photos. We started planning date nights where Arya would make an appearance, even if we were just staying home and watching movies. 7 months later, as I'm telling you this story, drag has become woven into the fabric of our marriage in ways I never could have imagined. Arya isn't Andrew's alter ego. She's an extension of who he is, a way for him to express creativity, femininity, and artistry that was always there but never had an outlet. Our friends were surprisingly supportive when we eventually shared this part of our lives. Some were confused at first, but seeing how happy it made both of us, how it had deepened our connection rather than creating distance, most came around quickly. The most beautiful part is watching how this journey has changed Andrew's relationship with himself. He's more confident, more creative, more willing to take risks in all areas of his life. There's something about regularly stepping completely outside societal expectations that makes everything else seem less daunting. "You gave me permission to be someone I didn't even know I wanted to be," he told me recently, and honestly, it made me cry happy tears. Our love story didn't end at the altar. It just got more interesting. I found my soulmate when I walked down that aisle, but on our honeymoon, I discovered my drag queen. And together, we've been absolutely fabulous ever since. That midnight blue sequined dress still hangs in Arya's closet, right next to Andrew's business suits. And honestly, I can't think of anything more perfectly symbolic of the life we've built together. Unexpected, beautiful, and absolutely, unapologetically fabulous. If this story touched you, the best way to support is by subscribing. Every subscriber helps us grow this beautiful community and share more powerful stories. Hit subscribe now and become part of the Gender Diary family. And remember, love isn't about changing someone. It's about creating space for them to become more themselves. Thank you for being here. The end.
The Gender Diary exists to light that path with shared stories. Whether you found connection in this narrative, you're on your own journey of gender exploration, or you're here seeking understanding, your subscription fuels our mission. Every subscriber empowers us to keep illuminating these authentic experiences for our community. Kindly drop a comment below. Your voice adds to the tapestry of experiences that makes this space meaningful. Until our next story unfolds.